And now, here are some things to do in Denver when you are drunk.
So satisfying.
It's a pretty good crack.
Let's talk about driving in Denver.
So I was merging onto 6th Avenue. Or I'm sorry, it would have been I-70. It's before you get to that 6th Avenue branch.
Mm-hmm.
And from C470, there's like a long on-ramp and stuff there. And at the end, it like kind of squishes down into one lane. So I had a car in front of me, and I was giving him some space and some distance, and apparently I think it was a Sprinter van behind me did not enjoy that, because he got right up on my ass, like literally, like could probably see like down my tailpipe. So I was like, well, this isn't cool, like, you know, I'm trying to give this guy space in front of me, blah, blah, blah. This is going to be like a really awful merge if I don't. And so I kind of brake checked him a little bit, and he really did not like that, because I think he got even closer. And so finally he got to kind of where the shoulder is, where he could get over to the I guess it's the I-70 part, and sped by me and stopped long enough to flip me off, and I flipped him off, and we all laughed, and it was a great time. But yeah, that's kind of a typical experience anymore, you know?
Yeah, it's indicative of this weird driving culture we have here. It's not really anybody's. It's like we have all these people moving here, and they all have their own driving styles, and then nobody wants to like learn the Denver driving style, and they all think that we suck. Oh, you guys drive too slow. You're too nice. All that kind of thing.
Well, I mean, it's like, you know, the zipper method when you're merging is like,
yeah, zipper, man.
It's proven to work. So
it is.
I think there's definitely a little bit of that, where you have people who have the LA style, which is cars all packed together going really quick on the same, you know, all along going the same destination.
If you're in LA, it's really slow.
Well, I mean, when you're in LA, but I'm talking about like the freeway, like just general California style. Well, yeah, but do you remember when we were talking to Lauren, our cousin Lauren, our mutual cousin, when we were talking to him up in Idaho, and I was making a crack about how he didn't use his turn signal. He's like, well, no one does, because the second you do, you know, someone's going to speed up and, you know, move into your space, your blind spot or whatever.
Yeah, there's that California aggressiveness.
Yeah, so you just
or LA
pretty much look for a hole and then dive in.
Yeah, and then there's the East Coast flavor, and there's been a growing number of people from the Eastern Seaboard, Atlantic, and even the South coming into Denver, and the metropolitan East Coast thing, you know, New York City and Boston, etc., DC, everybody's so aggressive, but they're also it's a race, because everybody has to be somewhere, and they don't have the time. Like, you're wasting time being in a car.
Yeah. I mean, like, I feel that way, kind of generally speaking, when I'm in a car, but I think that's more of just like a personal kind of thing. I don't think I necessarily grew up with that instilled in me, or, you know, I never really got that from drivers around me. It's just sort of a personal thing of like, I get annoyed by slowpokes because I'm just trying to travel from A to B, and you are holding me up, and I don't like that.
It's because we grew up in a tourist town.
Yeah,
I have the same thing.
Yeah.
And the county that our parents live in, Montezuma, everybody has this really like lazy way of driving. They don't turn their brights off for one. So like you're driving past this person on a dark highway, you're getting blinded, you don't know what's going on. But also people just go so slow down there. They take their time. And then you have all the tourists in like Durango or like around Mesa Verde or whatever.
They're like slowing down to look at the
do.
sights.
They're like, oh gosh, look at the beautiful sights, guys. We're in Colorado. Giga.
Yeah, maybe that's a a side effect of growing up as like a commuter too, because we lived outside of Durango and.
Oh, exactly.
So
we commute in.
Yeah. Who knows?
Hey, what are we drinking?
Colorado Native West Slope IPA, and it's available only in Colorado.
That's the cool thing about Colorado Native. They keep it local. What I appreciate is that everything in this can, all of the ingredients, were grown on the Western Slope near where our grandparents live. I picked this one for Grandpa Chuck, who just passed away recently. So
yeah, rip Grandpa Chuck.
This one's for you, Grandpa.
Cheers.
But yeah, all the ingredients are grown in, apparently they say 1 square mile, but that seems a little...
That's probably
you'd say 10 square miles. It's a little marketing-ish, but yeah. It's all...
I think it's important to note that this is an AC Golden Brewing Company product, which is a subsidiary of Coors.
Correct.
So, if you are anti-big beer, this may not be your jam, but it's pretty good. And
it's good.
If you're not adverse to throwing a little bit of money towards Coors now and then, I feel like it's probably worth it. It
supports local agriculture too.
It's laid back. This is not a West Coast IPA. This is a West Slope IPA.
This is sessionable. I could crush these all day.
And it's got like a West Coast kind of hops profile.
Right.
But the balance is really more East Coast.
There's a lot of malt.
Towards going towards like an English IPA.
Yeah, it's got that sweet malt.
I mean, that's like the first thing that really noticeably I get out of it whenever I take a drink is like you get that nice barley kind of crack in the face, and then like the hops kind of sweep in after that. But it's not bad. It's just it's definitely, you should not expect a hop bomb from this. It's good though. I like
it's
it.
Not dead guy. It's not ruination. It's not even arrogant bastard or anything like that. It's not even ska. Like ska, they really
Modus.
Modus,
Modus is like such a classic mountain IPA, and
yeah,
I'd still kind of align it more towards West Coast than this. Absolutely.
Yeah, this is a little more classic. It's I don't know. I find some similarities with Sierra Nevada for sure. So it's got that classic West Coast IPA, but then it still has that, I don't know, that Rocky Mountain water thing. It's that intangible, just like that.
Well, if it's a Coors
refreshingness.
beer, they've got all those. I don't know if you know anything about Coors water supply, and in the commercials they name drop Clear Creek, but they do not take their water out of Clear Creek. They have a variety of private springs on their property that they source their water from. So
Right.
you're getting mountain spring water, but it's been filtered through an aquifer and it's coming up out of the ground. So
It's right at the stores, yeah.
They don't take it from Clear Creek, and I don't think they would without a lot of treatment, because Clear Creek is known for having a lot of mining tailings in it.
Yeah. Sure.
So I thought I should clear that up real quick. That is
No, I mean that's a good thing to point out.
Yeah.
And that aquifer gives it that very particular water profile.
oh yeah, for
You
sure.
get those minerals that are in there, calcium and other things.
I think it's interesting to think about water in beer because it's so often passed over. Everyone wants to talk about the malt and hops, but no one ever talks about the water. I mean, even yeast gets way more of a profile than the water does, but little things in the water absolutely make a big difference.
Right. Exactly. And your water will taste different depending on the nature of the minerals inside of it, or mixed in with it. Like if you've got straight up reverse osmosis water that's pretty much as pure as you can get, that's one thing. But there's not that water character in there, or that mineral character.
Right. It adds definitely like a little bit of drinkability to it.
You can soften it up too.
Noticed. Yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely.
So here's one of my favorite things that is very, very appropriate for the style IPA. Originally, that style was born out of London, and they have shitty river water there. They're using the Thames, and that thing is, who knows what's floating in it, right? The Queen's poop. I don't know, but yeah. So they're using
Queen
estuary.
Poop? That brings up an important. I'm sorry to tangent this real quick, but does the Queen actually poop, and where does it go?
I think she goes to the London Bridge and goes to one of those towers, sits in the loo, and it just
like the old school way where you just don't have any. There's no process between.
No, it's not a toilet. It's a straight up just an opening right over the Thames.
Yeah. Okay.
and you hear it.
It's like the bomb.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was not a great bomb sound effect, but it at least got the point across. So.
No, it was not. I'll do it in post. Right.
Okay. That's what you got to do. Just fix it in post.
Fix it in post. Yeah, so originally the IPA was conceived in London, and because the Queen poops in the river, they found that it just wasn't very good. And then this guy, a few years later, found the recipe, and he was in the Midlands. He was in kind of the breadbasket of England. He tried the recipe again, and it was great. And so sometimes, it takes a style a couple times to really catch on. Versus somewhere around the same time, maybe a little bit earlier, there was the lager thing. And that was the Helles lager from Germany and the Pilsner from Bohemia.
We have to go into the roots of the Pilsner at this point. Because the Pilsner came from Czech kind of Pilsen.
Right. In Bohemia.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone really, really expected the Pilsner to take off like it did, though. I mean, that has to be, talk about a crazy success story, you know what I mean? To really take over the world, because that's what really the Pilsner's done.
Same as the light American lager.
Well, I mean, that's
a little bit
you wouldn't have light American lager if it wasn't for the Pilsner, because there's definitely, a riff on that.
Certainly.
All right, so what's next?
Well, let's talk about the Mission Ballroom. Let's talk about this thing. Here at Things to Do in Denver when you're drunk. We're all about things to do in Denver when you're drunk. So
weird.
One of the funnest things to do is to enjoy some live music. Right? We came up, in the underground scene. We enjoyed a lot of live music, but we certainly have gone to our fill of arena shows or the big shows at the Fillmore or whatever.
One of the first shows I ever went to in Denver was Nine Inch Nails at the Pepsi Center.
Yeah, Nine Inch Nails with the Perfect Circle. That was the Fragility tour.
Yeah, 2.0.
2.0.
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah, remember when we locked the keys in the car?
Yeah.
That frat boy came and kicked us out and
Because we
almost
had...
ripped my window off.
I can't believe that glass bent that far without breaking.
No. And he was like, skinny guy, put your arm in there.
Yeah. And it worked.
It worked.
It worked.
You were a lot skinnier then.
I was a lot skinnier, yeah. I mean, I'm still not like... You know, my arms aren't anything to speak of. You still fit your finger around the wrist, but... yeah, like, definitely I was super, super skinny back then. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. That was crazy. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, what's impressive about the Mission Ballroom is that it's not even done yet. It's almost done. They're still working on it. And most of the work, I think, is all, superficial. Because they've already done a kind of a sneak peek for media a few days ago. But it's really impressive. It's very, very impressive. And it's going to be kind of the new Fillmore. So the Fillmore Denver is kind of, I guess, in the family of all of the Fillmore venues. The original being in San Francisco, and then there was one in New York City. And that was back in the day. That was like our parents'
Fillmore
time.
East used to be a popular spot for...
Right. And that was New York, right?
Yeah, that was New York City. Yeah, Allman Brothers used to play there all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, man, we had Dillinger Escape Plan at this little dive bar downtown. And, like, every time I die... And, like, these aren't, mainstream bands. These are kind of somewhat niche metal bands. But they're big in the metal scene.
Yeah.
And they're big enough and they have big enough followings that, like, it's a big deal that they would play these.
Yeah.
That these bigger
they're bands
metal
that
bands
play the Fillmore.
Right, exactly.
And they're playing this tiny dive bar.
Right.
This little punk rock dive bar. It's great.
Don't even know how it's still standing. Like,
oh no!
Just,
yeah. I don't understand. I think I think all of this though. There's competition here in Denver, and that's what's so cool to me. Like that's why I brought all of this up. Is there is now fierce competition, 3 ways, and I'm really excited. And it seems like Soda Jerk and the new guys, and I feel so bad about not knowing their names because I should know. I even follow them on Instagram. But the new blood, they just want to do cool shows in intimate venues where people can like have a good time, like the Streets of London. And
That's
Soda
cool.
Jerk just wants to continue doing what they do and bringing good shows. And I feel like they've kind of ceded control of big things to AEG, and that's fine. AEG has the network; they're nationwide. They have the promotional power.
Well, I think it's important to. I don't know. Like I put things in the perspective with. I guess like when we're talking about the different tiers of live venues around here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you're talking about like the marquee and stuff, like these aren't huge venues, and they can pack a reasonable amount of people in there, but they're not like definitely the Summit I think changed things for them because then they could book the bigger bands, they could book like the bigger tours, they could book bigger things. Because the marquee is definitely nothing. It's nothing to shake a stick at, but it's nothing to spit at either. You know what I mean? Like it's.
It's probably the most Colorado thing that's been said tonight.
Right? Yeah. It inhabits like a weird little middle ground. And I think what I liked
it's
about
a weird little venue too.
Well, what I liked about it was that even though they were booking big bands, big in the underground scene. I mean,
right.
Definitely, you weren't booking Nine Inch Nails there. Like,
right.
Nine Inch Nails wouldn't be
Blink 182.
Right, exactly. But like pretty big.
But like the smaller guys in the hardcore, like renowned. But I saw Boy Sets Fire there.
I've seen Darkest Hour there several times.
A bunch.
Cephalic Carnage.
Yep,
They're like the
Cephalic
local boys who made it big.
Hell yeah.
I've seen them there twice. But I think it's important to state that, like, they were still, while they weren't like hugely supportive of the local scene, they were still supportive of the local scene. If you could bring some numbers out, if you had the numbers that they wanted, they would book you for nationally touring bands. And I don't know many bands that actually really made it anywhere via the marquee, but the fact that they were willing to even book local bands into the venue, I think is a big deal for me. And I get really, I think, resentful towards the music scene here because of how wishy-washy it is towards local music.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
And I think, you know, as someone, you know, we've both played around in the Denver local scene for a considerable amount of years.
Oh, yeah.
I think that one of the worst things about Denver, one of the greatest things about Denver, is that we do attract a lot of touring bands, and we do attract a lot of music, and we do have a great live scene, a great live, you know, like just community. And people love to go to shows.
Been through some ups and downs. There was a time where the only venues were the Rainbow Music Hall and Red Rocks. And Red Rocks is a pain in the ass. It's out of town.
It's an amazing place to play, but...
It is.
But yes, it's also a pain in the ass to get to.
For modern music, though, it is tough to load in there. And so you've got to make a commitment to go to Red Rocks. Red Rocks is...
sure.
You're going there because of the name, because it's Red Rocks. Because everybody from the Beatles to U2 to... We saw Clutch and Mastodon there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everybody's been there. Everybody's been to Red Rocks. That's a big, goal for a lot of local bands is playing Red Rocks.
Playing Red Rocks.
Even if you've made
Film
it.
on the Rocks or something kind of...
Yeah.
You know, a little more...
Exactly.
Local-centric, because I would say that Film on the Rocks is local-centric.
Right. People aren't coming in from out of town to watch Film on the Rocks.
Right. But it's a cool experience.
It is. So yeah, I don't know, this Mission Ballroom seems pretty cool. And, you know, we were both looking at it. They've got this really interesting thing where the interior is reconfigurable and the stage can be moved around and everything like that. And you can make it larger or smaller based on how many people you're expecting there for the show. So that's pretty cool. Their draw, or their goals are 2,500 to 3,950.
So they want 2,500.
That's around the size of the Fillmore. It was around 25,000 or 2,500.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it can get up to 4,000 almost.
If it can unseat the Fillmore. The last time I was at the Fillmore, I wasn't impressed. I went to go see Metric with July Talk. And I think what annoyed me were that there were little bars everywhere, which I guess was good in some ways. It was easy to get alcohol and stuff, but...
Well, yeah, there's like 4 mini bars there or something.
Yeah.
Because there's like 2 on either side.
No, there's like 6. And I understand that that's sort of the deal when you go to a venue, especially like a bigger venue.
Right.
I've been to Fillmore.
Tickets don't have a large margin.
I've been to the Fillmore. I've been to the Ogden. I've been to. I haven't been to the First Bank Center. That's probably the biggest venue I haven't been to yet. I've been to the Pepsi Center a couple times.
That's a small arena.
Fiddler's Green, Red Rocks, and most of the time, yeah, like they're kind of cash grabbing a little bit, upcharging beers, things like that.
Oh yeah, it's like $7 for a domestic beer.
Out of a 12 ounce,
a little 12
ounce cup,
right? A little 12.
Actually,
you get a plastic cup, flimsy plastic cup.
For the local,
you get in a pit, and that thing's gonna crumple.
for the local folks who go to Fiddler's Green, get the Bombers of Corona Extra, because it's like the full strength Corona. It's 22 ounces and it's a reasonable price. It's more reasonable of a price. I think it's we kind of calculated everything, did the math, and I think it's the best ratio of performance versus cost.
Okay.
Yeah.
Local tip.
Yeah.
From Stefan.
There you go.
Get the Corona.
Get the Corona Extra in Bombers.
In Bombers. Do they actually sell glass bombers there, huh?
Yes, I believe
Holy
so.
shit.
Yeah. I'd like to say a little more about how little Denver supports its local bands, and I feel like if you can get some real traction and you can get hundreds of people out every time, there's definitely doors for you.
Absolutely.
But I feel like it's very difficult to find venues in this town that are willing to support a band that doesn't bring out a whole bunch of people. And they aren't...
You know what venue does do that, though?
I'm guessing you're talking about either Seventh Circle or... what's the other one that we played a bunch?
Seventh Circle is definitely cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're definitely local central. I mean, they're underground. They're still underground, and that it's a small venue. I'm talking about like an established venue that can draw, or that can hold a couple hundred people.
I don't know.
Cervantes. The other side, specifically.
Cervantes.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've played the other side several times.
I haven't played Cervantes' other side in a significant amount of time, though.
It's been a while.
I want to talk a bit about some of the local venues that have had good models for bringing in outside traffic.
Yes.
And bringing in exposure for local bands that need it, because I think in the end that's what starves the Denver local scene, is inability for bands, even good bands, to find exposure. And I'm going to talk about one venue in particular that is now under the umbrella of the Larimer Lounge. It's the same people who own the Larimer Lounge.
Right.
And that was Lost Lake.
Lost Lake was fantastic. I think it still is.
It is. And, I think it's better now that they've sort of backed off on the ticket prices there. Because I think for a while after it was bought, they were trying to do the same thing that they were doing up at Larimer Lounge, and you can't charge $15 at the door for a local show in Denver. And I think that's one of the biggest things in the local scene that's just starving out the scene, is making ticket prices so high that you're turning away people at the door.
Right. Your friends are only going to pay $15 so many times before they're like, okay,
Right.
This is getting expensive.
And I've been in a variety
people
of...
who don't know you aren't going to pay $15
You better...
if they don't know if you're going to be good or not.
You better be wowing them from the street
Right.
for them to want to pay $15.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially when they still have to pay a bar tab and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I would love to see more of a venue style in Denver where it's either you don't charge and you pay bands off of the bar.
Goose Island. Goosetown.
Goosetown Tavern.
Goose Island is a brewery.
Yeah.
That is not anything near. Yeah, Goosetown Tavern. They do that. I don't know if they still do that, but they used to do that.
Yeah. But we need more of that model.
They do. Yeah. I want to give a shout out to Seventh Circle. So if anybody here in Denver likes underground music, and underground spans a lot of territory, I feel, and especially at Seventh Circle, because they do everything from old school punk rock to newest school hip hop and rap, and a lot of things in between, acoustic acts, all kinds of stuff there at Seventh Circle. They're all about the DIY ethos. So you gotta have kind of the punk hard You gotta have that DIY punk spirit.
I've never had a bad experience there, I guess. I've been there a variety of times and played there in a variety of bands, and
Oh yeah.
I feel like it's always been a good experience in one way or another.
One of my favorite shows ever was our EP release party that we did. We had a good turnout for that.
Yeah. Yeah, we did. And Aaron Sai is like, he's just such a chill, like, cool dude.
He's one of the chillest dudes that you ever meet, and one of the hardest working.
Oh yeah, and like I think like my favorite thing about him is that like he's always there with like a big hug, and he's like, "Hey man, I haven't seen you in a while." Gives you a big hug.
He remembers people.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Special.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I guess that's sort of the unabridged version of my complaint about the Denver local scene, is that I'd love to see more support for local acts and more venues that have a model that is beneficial to local bands and not, I guess, punishing to local bands who don't have 50 to 200 people following them already and willing to come out every time to every show and spend money.
I think that worked for a little while during the MySpace days. Even then, it was kind of a stretch. And I feel like now, even more than ever, it's really tough to be a new band, to be a new act of any kind, because people are inundated with new stuff all the time, and it's overwhelming. It really is.
I think part of it too is like just the way people are engaged is different.
Yeah,
you have this like kind of more YouTube model where you have to keep putting out content regularly, and you have to have your name kind of in the vision of people more and more, like as much as you can all the time.
One interesting thing that tie in there with pumping out content is I have seen a lot from, even big bands. Like, you're wearing a Baroness t-shirt. They've said this, of moving away from your typical album kind of thing and doing more EPs and things like that.
I've seen that on the uptick as well. And that's actually a thing that I've been thinking about for a couple of years now. And maybe that's even longer than it feels like a couple of years, but it might have been. I might have just started thinking about that like a long time ago, and moving in more of like a small format, more release, more often released kind of thing, where you don't have your typical year-long album cycle. You have shorter EP releases every few months, and it challenges the established contract model where you have like
Sure.
a lot of times you'll have time frames built into those where you can't release too much music in a year or something like that.
Or you have to release something every, say, 2 years or something like that.
Right, exactly.
I mean,
you're held to a schedule.
For some reason, Alice in Chains popped into my head right away because I think there's this indelible memory of Cantrell, Jerry Cantrell, who is one of my favorite people, was making the argument, well, they didn't say like how many songs needs to be on the album. We can just put out an EP. And so they put out Jar of Flies.
Yeah. Right. And they did that. They had three different EP releases, I think. Or was there just two?
It was just two.
There was just two, yeah.
There was the Sap.
Yeah, there was Sap and Jar of Flies, right?
That was around like between, I think, the first album and then Dirt.
What I really loved about those was that they were sort of challenging to what you thought Alice in Chains' sound was.
Yeah.
They came out with these EPs with like acoustic guitar. Oh my god.
Yeah, right. Turn
This is not
with Chris
that
Cornell.
Yeah, exactly.
That is one of my favorite Alice in Chains songs.
Yeah.
Not just because it has Chris Cornell, but that does figure in.
Yeah, sure. Why not? He was an amazing person.
Yeah, rip Chris Cornell.
Yeah, rip.
He is missed. He's real missed.
And speaking of people who've passed beyond our realms, we are drinking Coors Banquet, and this is our grandpa's favorite beer.
Oh yeah, Grandpa
And
Chuck.
although we've already once said rip Grandpa Chuck, I don't think it can be said too many times. So, again, rip Grandpa Chuck.
Grandpa
And
Chuck.
we loved you.
You are missed.
All right, so do we want to talk about, because I feel like, did we leave mission, what was the mission, what's the venue? Mission something. Mission Control.
Mission Ball. Mission Control.
I think it's cool.
Yeah. Kind of a few talking points about this. Like I said, it has the reconfiguration thing. You can move the stage and
I
get
think that's really neat.
different like floor sizes, right? And so they tapped a Portland-based architecture firm called Works Progress, who designed an open dance floor in front of the stage, and then there's about 2,000 tiered seats.
If they can fill more of a gap there, I think that's really cool, and that might be good for the bands.
Yeah, exactly. It feels like it is a gap filler, for sure.
That's good.
And another cool thing is that it's the anchor of the North Wingcoop District, this is new
What
to
does
me.
that mean? Like, that just sounds like a marketing thing.
Well, I think it is.
Anchor. An anchor?
If you go by the
It's a
Mission Ballroom,
draw. It draws more things.
yes, it is literally 5 minutes from the RTD station there at 38th and Blake. But the big thing is parking. I mean, that's always the big thing around there. Mm-hmm. Let's see what the parking's going to be like. But it looks like they're going to have a big parking lot. So I think it will bring a lot to that whole area. Not just this new North Wingcoop District, but also Rhino, 5 Points, etc.
I hope so.
There's going to be a lot of restaurants, shopping, stuff like that.
Okay, so what really excites me about it is that it sounds like it's really cool for like road crews and for the bands themselves. Laundry facilities apparently, which is really neat. Like,
No way.
how many venues have laundry facilities where like the bands can go do their
That's cool.
go do their laundry. I don't know if they're gonna have to pay, like put in a bunch of quarters. or,
Right.
or what, if that's going to be just like a service that they provide, but I think it's a neat one. I think it's neat. And then
Sure.
their load-in, they designed it to be really easy for the stagehands. And
I heard that too, and I'm so excited. I might try to return to stagehanding if it, I don't know.
Just get on
We'll see.
the house crew there if they have a house crew.
right?
I read somewhere, maybe it was Westward or something, that there's less than 100 feet from the load-in to the stage, so they can just
That's
shoot
significant.
that right over there.
As somebody who did do professional concert stagehanding, that was a weird way to say it. I was a concert stagehand
Is that
for
on
a long time.
your
It's
LinkedIn?
it's on my
professional
LinkedIn.
concert Stagehanding.
Yeah, professional. As someone who did work in that industry on that side as a stagehand, there's more than 100 feet between the loading dock at the Pepsi Center and going into the arena. And I mean, it's not like it was hard. You get those road cases going and they just go.
Yeah,
Sometimes the hard part is
I've
stopping.
done that with. I've worked not in stagehanding, but in tech support for.
Oh yeah, you did events.
Yeah.
With Smart.
Yeah. Smart educational software, and you'd load all the boards into the big road cases, and it was very similar. So I know what you mean,
Yeah.
and I know about almost getting your foot caught in the wheel while you're dragging it or whatever. And it almost breaking your foot.
I never had that.
Yeah, well,
I did dump.
I heard some horror stories.
I did dump a big powered speaker. Somebody didn't set up the ramp correctly, and as I went over the ramp with this huge powered speaker, which usually isn't a thing at these shows, usually what they do is have a passive speaker array. And when I say passive versus power, for people who don't know, passive means it's just a speaker and there's no amplifier there to like make it louder.
It's plugged into a power amp that actually gives it the wattage it needs to run.
You have an array of power amps that powers an array of speakers versus an array of speakers that have the power amps built into them, which makes it a lot heavier. And I dumped one of these over, and it took 3 guys to get it back up.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was a mess. Well, that does it for this episode of Things to Do in Denver when you're drunk.
Go ahead and do your...
Okay. I have been Christopher.
And I'm Stefan.
Don't drink like my brother.
Don't drink like my brother.
That's the ending.
All right.
Yes.
Good night.
Good night.